Let's take a look at the Formula 1 grid and their footballing counterparts. Why? Who knows? I'm making this up as I go along. Robert Kubica and Daniel Sturridge. Robert Kubica's career ended after a massive rallying crash severed his right arm, and he's only just this year made his comeback. Much like Daniel Sturridge and his injuries at Liverpool. He went on loan last year to West Bromwich Albion and didn't do much, and hasn't really made his way back into the squad this year. George Russell and Mason Mount. George Russell looks to be an exciting talent, the ex-GP3 and Formula 2 champion, but unfortunately the car he's in is not really giving him the chance to shine. Much like Mason Mount and his loan move to Derby County. Kevin Magnussen and Luke Shaw. When Luke Shaw moved to Man United, he was considered to be a fat, hopeless waste of time who was abused by his manager. Kevin Magnussen, when he started his Formula 1 career, was known as a crash-prone idiot. Both of them are starting to shine now, though, and picking up good points. Roman Grosjean has shown talent. The former GP2 champion had a smattering of podiums across his Formula 1 career, but most of the time just seems to mess it up, and lately has shown no form at all. Whilst Gylfi Sigurdsson, after his £50 million move to Everton, has scored the odd brilliant goal, but most of the time looks pretty average and not worth the money. Daniel Kvyat and David Luiz. Daniel Kvyat was in Formula 1 with Toro Rosso before being promoted to the Red Bull team. After a few crash-strewn races that nicknamed him the Torpedo, he was demoted back to Toro Rosso and released at the end of the season. He's made his comeback this year and has looked pretty decent at times. Much like David Luiz, who left Chelsea for Paris Saint-Germain, and after a couple of seasons came back again and won the Premier League. Alexander Albon and Trent Alexander-Arnold. If anyone's a surprise name on the Formula 1 grid this year, it's Albon. But he has looked decent at times, keeping pace with his teammate. Much like Trent Alexander-Arnold, who has come out of nowhere into the Liverpool and England team and has done very, very well for himself. Sergio Perez and Jamie Vardy. Sergio Perez has been around for a while now, and apart from a few podiums here and there, has never really reached his full potential. He had one disastrous season at McLaren, and has spent most of his time with mid-table teams. Apart from that one magnificent drive in a Sauber where he almost won the race but it wasn't for one mistake, it was pretty much a victory for them. Jamie Vardy is also getting on a bit now, and has spent most of his career with struggling teams like Fleetwood Town. But he did have that one magnificent season with Leicester where he won the Premier League, and at the age of 32, is still doing alright. Lance Stroll and Tom Ince. Lance Stroll is probably in Formula 1 for his dad's money, not necessarily his talent. Apart from one lucky podium, he hasn't really done much, mostly finishing at the back at the end of the fields. Tom Ince has got by on his dad's name. Once linked with Inter Milan, although he did stay at Hull, he has been pretty average throughout his career. Antonio Giovinazzi and Ousmane Dembele. Antonio Giovinazzi has been a decent driver and has kept pace with Kimi Raikkonen at times this season. But his career has sort of had a slow start and is only just now beginning to pick up. Ousmane Dembele was meant to be a star signing at Barcelona, but the young man struggled to get off the books and has taken his time settling into the team, but looks to be getting there. Kimi Raikkonen and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Kimi Raikkonen has been around for a very long time. He is a former champion and has had a decent career, but is now seeing out his final years with a much smaller team. Much like Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who has won pretty much everything in football. But as he's got on, he is now seeing out his final years with a smaller team in America, and both of them have a pretty ice-cool personality that is very popular with the media. Daniel Ricciardo and Wilfried Zaha. Daniel Ricciardo is definitely a great driver and has not reached his full potential yet. If he can make it with a big team and score more wins, I can see him being world champion one day. Much like Wilfried Zaha, who's pretty much slumming it at Crystal Palace right now. If he got to move to a big club, he could do big things. Nico Hülkenberg and John Stones. Nico Hülkenberg has been a very consistent driver over the years, regularly picking up points. But he's never had that real standout moment, never even making it on the podium. And whilst John Stones has won Premier League titles, he's kind of a defender who doesn't stand out, and has actually made lots of mistakes in the past. Lando Norris and Jadon Sancho. Lando Norris was unlucky not to win the Formula 2 championship last year, but on his season start with McLaren has looked very decent. He's very quick and clearly has a lot of talent and a lot of potential for the future, much like Jadon Sancho, who has just broken onto the England scene and looks to be an exciting player. Carlos Sainz and Tammy Abraham. I've mostly paired these two up because they've both been to loads of different clubs and teams, respectively. Sainz has been with 3 different teams in 5 years, and Tammy Abraham's always out on loan to someone from Chelsea. They both clearly have talent and just need a chance to prove it. Pierre Gasly and Alvaro Morata. Poor Pierre Gasly, he looked really talented in his Toro Rosso last year, but it just hasn't worked out at Red Bull. He seems to be getting better as the season goes on, picking up the odd point here and there, but he's just nowhere near Verstappen at the moment. Much like Alvaro Morata, who failed to adapt to Chelsea and has been sent out on loans at Atletico Madrid in a desperate bid to get rid of him. Deservedly, I might add. Max Verstappen and Kylian Mbappe. Max Verstappen is probably the most exciting driver on the grid, constantly pulling out exciting passes and livening up most races. Just like Kylian Mbappe at the World Cup, who stood out amongst his peers, including Paul Pogba, as an exciting player of the future. Both of them are still young and are great prospects for the future. Charles Leclerc and Gabriel Jesus. Charles Leclerc's move to Ferrari is pretty sudden. It's only his second year in Formula 1, but he seems to be doing quite well. Much like Gabriel Jesus, who when he moved to England actually scored a few goals here and there and looked like a decent talent compared to even Sergio Aguero. Much like Leclerc, Gabriel Jesus has had injuries, and Leclerc's mechanical breakdowns have stopped him winning races, but both of them have bright futures. Sebastian Vettel and Mesut Ozil. I chose these two because they're both clearly talented. Sebastian Vettel's a 4-time world champion, has won many races, and on his day is an incredibly quick driver. But at the moment, he just doesn't seem to have the motivation. Much like Mesut Ozil, who seems to be the most mopiest player in English football at the moment. Mostly just not standing out at all. Nowhere near how talented he is, except for those bright moments when they're both shining and doing what they do best. Valtteri Bottas and Callum Wilson. I chose these two because Bottas is an average talent, to be fair. Decent, but not a world beater. And much like Callum Wilson, who was almost commanding a £50 million move from Bournemouth, they're just not special. I think many drivers could drive at Valtteri Bottas' level, and many strikers can play at Callum Wilson's level. We'll just have to see how it turns out for them. And finally, Lewis Hamilton. And obviously Ronaldo or Messi or something, right? Wrong. Because of this.
There's a reason you didn't box to that before. If I just lost position. Victims so crucial ahead of the last car. I can't believe that we just had to pit. Please inform me of what is the next option I have. So Lewis, this is going to be a race to the end. We should have betted on that lap. I knew I should have.
I will say that Lewis Hamilton has all the talent in the world, and he deserves to be a 5-time world champion, even though it's mostly been in the most dominant car in the field. But it's the constant whinging despite his dominance that really annoys me about him. Even when he's 20 seconds in front of everyone else, you can hear him on the radio saying his tyres are going off and just whinging at the team for no real reason. You just kind of wish he'd get on with it instead of acting like an old lady. Much like Neymar, worth £200 million apparently, but he spends most of the time rolling around on the floor like he's been shot in the bollocks. Both of them are talented individuals, world beaters, world champions, and they deserve all the success they get. But they just need to cut out the whinging and amateur dramatics. And that's my list. Leave a comment with your suggestions. I'd like to hear them. That's all for now. Good night.